If you only understand correct English, textbook English, you don't really understand English. I once saw an English teacher say that he refuses to teach non-standard English because it's stupid, and that single belief has stuck with me over the years because it explains why so many people that are intermediate or advanced speakers of English that they can't understand real conversations. I'm Ashley Roan from Paradigm English, and you are listening to the Living in English 365 podcast. All right, so before we get started, go ahead and subscribe, and share this with somebody who actually wants to improve their listening. If you don't hear or understand anything else from this podcast, hear this. You do not have a vocabulary problem. You don't have a grammar problem. You have a listening system that was trained on fake English. Let me tell you what I mean. If native speakers sound fast or maybe even lazy or unclear to you, some people say it sounds like we have a potato in our mouth when we talk or that we're chewing on words. Okay, this episode is about that and about why that's not really their fault. Here's the thing. Most English programs trained you to listen in a way that guarantees you're going to fail whenever you actually have to listen to somebody that really knows the language speak. So, full story. That guy, I saw him write that on some forum I was on, and I just was absolutely baffled because I thought, the audacity. What do you mean that you're setting your students up for failure? They have to understand more than just textbook English. If you teach them textbook English, you're not teaching them English. You're teaching them something that people don't even speak. People don't even, in some ways, have a basis for. Textbooks get outdated immediately. And what are you teaching them? Your whole job is to prepare them to communicate in this language. And you're not going to do that? I can't get down with that. And I don't know who that teacher is. I never personally met him, but it just infuriated me. And I'm still mad to this day because he's the whole reason many people have issues whenever they're listening and trying to speak English. Because he thought it was stupid. Here's the thing. Textbook English is not real English. Just make sure you understand that. I'm going to show you how that matters and to give you just a small taste of what I am calling a listening rehab. It's something that I'm working on, and I'll tell you about it in a little bit. Like I said before, most people that are learning English don't have a vocabulary problem. It's not a grammar problem. What they have is a listening processing problem. And I'm meaning that in a sense of if you're trying to talk and you are talking and then all of a sudden you just don't understand what the person said and you're like, what the hell? I was doing so well. And now you're struggling and anxious because you missed something and you know it. And people are maybe looking at you hello, aren't you going to respond? Did you catch it? Right? Now you have to either pretend or just keep asking wait, I didn't get it. What does that mean? What does that mean? What did you say? What happened? Yeah. And just so you know, I'm not talking about people who have never learned English, right? Okay, they have a grammar problem. They don't know English. People that are at a beginner level. Okay, if you're trying to have a conversation, you literally don't have the vocabulary. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about intermediate and advanced people. I've said it before. Let me say it again in case you're new here. Hi, welcome to the podcast. Real English is not spoken the way that it's written. If you didn't know that, welcome to today. Now you know. Native speakers, they drop sounds, they compress words, they merge phrases, they speak in chunks and not sentences, and they change the rhythm based on emotion, speed, and context, which you can hear in this podcast because I'm annoyed about the one guy that said something stupid years ago. My God, I hope he fixed himself. So when teachers say, I only teach correct English, what they're really doing is training you to understand a fake version, museum version of the language, which doesn't exist. If a teacher's telling you that, immediately leave and you can send them to me and I'll tell them the same thing. You're setting that person up for failure. You suck. Unfortunately, though, many people don't get this information and they blame themselves. They're like, oh, I know this word. I knew that word. I learned that grammar. Why can't I hear it? What's the problem? You know what the problem is? I'm going to tell you. It's because your brain was never trained to expect real speech. Yeah, because you were trained to learn a language, English language, that nobody says. I'll tell you a story. I dated a guy once after I finished grad school, and he was from Kenya. And he was telling me some story about, he and his teammate, he was a track runner, they had gone somewhere and he was talking on the phone. And instead of saying, hey, turn the TV down, right? Can you turn the volume down? He said, reduce the volume. And that like blew my brain. It blew my mind. I'm like, what do you mean reduce the volume? My brain at that time, I was like maybe 30. I was like, I would have never thought to say that. You know why? Because I'm a native speaker and we are conditioned and we have learned to, this is the English that we know. I don't know, reduce the volume, but he didn't learn all the collocations and the phrases that I knew. Right. And so in a sense, whenever he said that, I understood what he meant, but I didn't understand him. And it made my brain work harder than it really had to. I'm not blaming him. I'm not passing judgment or anything. It's just a story of showing how whenever you learn textbook English, what can happen. Either you're not trained enough or people are like, oh, okay, yeah, I understood you, but we don't really say it like that, right? And then you're like, oh, crap, okay, but I said it. You deal with it, right? It's just an interesting anecdote. I don't know. It's weird to me why people are not teaching real English. And I know people are like, okay, well, you don't really have to. You can just adjust. Nobody's doing that. Let me just be honest. The majority of the people that you're going to meet, they're not going to adjust. You have to adjust to them. Now, that doesn't mean everyone gets to come point fun at your accent or whatever. You know multiple languages. They need to take a seat. Matter of fact, take 2 seats. And you can tell them I said that. But let's be blunt. If you can't understand reduced forms, casual phrasing, and messy speech, you don't fully understand English. And English is supposed to be able to serve you in every single situation that you get yourself into. Okay? If it's not doing that, then you've got gaps. And you need to really come to terms with that. That doesn't mean that you need to speak slang. Okay? It just means that your listening system needs exposure and retraining. That's essentially it. I'm focusing on listening. That's what I'm talking about. We're listening for a reason, right? Maybe we're listening because we need to respond. Maybe we're listening because there's something that we need to hear. And if you haven't been trained to do that, well, now you've got gaps, right? And you need to retrain yourself, get yourself rewired. That is why some of you do not understand English whenever you're listening to it. And people are always like, yeah, the advice is just listen more. If you don't know what you're listening for, how is that going to help you? That doesn't help you, right? So let's think about it like this. Think about these phrases like, you good? You want to head out? Did you eat? Yeah, I'm finna go. I'll see you in a bit. Let me check, right? These seem like they're mistakes and you're listening and you're like, okay, I kind of understood some of them, but I didn't catch all of it, right? That's how English actually works. That's how it actually moves in real life. Ignoring that doesn't make you sound smarter. Like that teacher was saying, it makes your listening weak. It makes your listening very fragile. And that fragile listening breaks under speed and pressure. So here's what a lot of teachers and a lot of programs, they just don't do right. They just get it wrong. Listening is not passive. Like I said, you're not going to be listening to more YouTube videos or more podcasts and improving your listening. No, that's not going to get it done, baby. Sorry. It's not just listen more. It's listening. Okay. Listening is an active, predictive, high-speed processing. Your brain has to do a whole lot of stuff. It has to predict what's coming, break the sounds into smaller or larger meanings, right? Ignore the fluff, the unnecessary bits of information and detail. Tolerate ambiguity. And keep moving forward even when something isn't quite clear. That's a lot of work, and that's not passive. A lot of learners, they're just trained to do kind of the opposite. You're like, okay, I got to fixate on every single word. Let me focus on this word. Oh no, I missed that word. Now I don't understand everything. Okay, now your brain's tired. You need to mentally get that under control. It's a mental rewind, and they're translating, and then they're monitoring their grammar. That there is for reading. It kills your listening. It kills it. So today I want to give you one tiny rehab exercise to feel the difference. Okay. And I have an assessment on my website you can take. And you can really see where your listening is breaking down. Okay, you can see where your issues are in some discrete areas. Here's what you can do. Not now, but you can do it later today. Choose a 10 to 15 second audio clip of natural English, like somebody in an interview or a show scene or a podcast. Okay. And here are these 3 rules that I need you to follow. Don't break any of the rules. Follow these 3 rules exactly, or you didn't do your test correctly, or I should say exercise. Rule number 1, do not pause or rewind. In real life, your brain doesn't have that luxury. You don't get to do that. Here's rule number 2. Do not write what you hear. As a matter of fact, don't even put the subtitles. When you're talking to somebody, you don't have the subtitles. No, you don't. Your brain doesn't have that. So we're not testing your spelling. We're training processing. And we're definitely not testing reading. Here's the last rule. Rule number 3. After you listen once, answer this one question. What was the situation? What was the situation? Not the words, not the grammar, the meaning. Who was speaking? What was happening? What was the intention? If your brain panics, cool. That means you're training the right system. This is how you build tolerance for ambiguity, which is one of the biggest predictors of a strong listening system. And a lot of people they don't practice that. Frankly, I'll just be blunt. They don't practice that. They only practice correctness. And I'm going to leave all of the mistakes that I've made here so you can see that's how people talk. This is how it really happens. If you're wondering okay, why does this work? Okay, because this kind of listening, 1, it's building up your speed. 2, it's reducing your brain's, your mental overload. It trains chunking and it stops over monitoring. It's what folks in communication sciences, like an audiologist, all of that theoretical research, it all points toward, but none of your teachers are going to be doing it this way. Okay. This is what it points towards. That's why people get stuck at just advanced or C1 or C2. They plateau there and they were never diagnosed properly. So if this episode made you uncomfortable in a good way, here's your next step. I've built a listening diagnostic that shows you how your listening is actually working. Is it speed? Is it chunking? Is it prediction? Is it over monitoring? And if you're not ready for that yet, I also have a free listening action item. One simple exercise like the one you heard today. There's no grammar. There's no fluff. It's just rehab for your listening. How do you improve your listening? This is how, by knowing what is stopping you, what is blocking you. So you're going to find both of those linked below wherever you're listening. We're almost at the end of this podcast for today. You can get the link below. Because fluent listening isn't about knowing more English. It's about training your brain to hear the English it already knows and that already exists. Hey folks, that's all I have today. If you did not already do so, go ahead and like, subscribe, follow, share, and definitely share this with that one person you know wants to improve their listening. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and tell me in the comments. Leave me a 5-star review. Folks, that's all I have. But real quick, next time, I want to kind of go more in depth in this listening. So I want to talk about why listening to English more doesn't actually work. And then a couple weeks later, how to train your ear for real English, not that textbook English shit. Okay, real English. So I'll see you there. Bye for now.